There are moments when the universe whispers, but only those who are still enough can hear. The final 3 days of August are not ordinary days. They carry a weight, a vibration, a closing of doors, and an opening of unseen paths. In ancient Shaolin, silence was not weakness, it was a weapon. Masters taught that words are more than sound. They are threads of energy, and once released, they cannot be taken back. In these last days of August, speaking without care can cut those very threads that hold your destiny together. Every tradition, from the monks of China to the mystics of the desert, has guarded silence as sacred. Why? Because silence is not empty. It is alive. It is the ground where wisdom grows, where energy gathers, where destiny shapes itself in quiet. Few people know this, and fewer still practice it. The chosen ones are tested most when cycles close, for endings stir hidden forces within and around us. If you speak carelessly in this time, you scatter your strength into the wind. But if you remain silent, your spirit becomes unshakable, and your path forward sharpens with clarity. In this video, you will discover why silence in these 3 days is not simply discipline, it is protection. You will learn how ancient Shaolin wisdom, mindfulness, and inner mastery reveal a hidden law of power that many overlook. You will see how keeping still, holding your words, and listening deeply can transform the way you enter the new month. Stay with me until the end, for only then will the full pattern reveal itself. Welcome, chosen ones, to Shaolin Soulfire. If the path of wisdom and self-mastery calls to you, I invite you to subscribe and walk with us in strength and silence. A word once spoken is like an arrow released. It cannot return to the bow. The Shaolin masters understood this truth deeply. To them, speech was never just vibration in the air. It was a movement of energy, a release of qi. Every sentence, every sound carried a piece of one's life force out into the world. This is why the ancients spoke with care, as if each word was weighed against eternity. In the monastery, young disciples were often reminded that their voices were rivers of power. If they allowed their tongues to run without discipline, their energy flowed outward until nothing was left for the path within. But the disciple who learned silence discovered something greater. His breath grew deeper, his body lighter, and his mind steady like the mountain. For silence is not absence, it is containment, the gathering of fire inside the furnace of the spirit. The chosen ones must see words as more than communication. Words are spells, shaping the world around us, binding or breaking, healing or wounding. A careless phrase can cut deeper than a blade, while a word spoken with intention can awaken hidden strength in another's heart. This is why silence was honored as the higher form of speech. By speaking less, one says more. By holding back, one allows the truth to ripen within. The Shaolin path teaches that conserving qi through silence is like storing water in a clay jar. It nourishes you in times of drought, strengthens your will in times of trial, and sharpens your vision in times of change. To remain silent when the world demands noise is not weakness, it is mastery. It is choosing to guard your treasure rather than scatter it among strangers. In the final days of a cycle, the mind becomes like water stirred by the wind. Thoughts rush, emotions rise, and the chatter of the world presses in. At such moments, even the smallest ripple can cloud the surface and hide what lies beneath. The old masters compared the mind to a lake. When restless, it reflects nothing clearly, only fragments, broken shapes, distorted visions. But when still, it becomes a perfect mirror, revealing the sky, the trees, and the truth of all things without effort. The last 3 days of August are such a time when stillness is most needed. They are days of transition, when old energy fades and new energy waits just beyond the horizon. In these days, discipline becomes more than practice, it is protection. External noise, endless conversations, and inner restlessness stir waves that blur one's direction. But silence is the breath that calms the waters. With each quiet hour, the ripples fade, and the mind remembers its natural clarity. The ancient Shaolin taught their students to sit in silence at the close of every cycle. No chanting, no speech, only still breath and steady awareness. In that silence, the disciple would see his own thoughts rise like fish beneath the water. Some thoughts would dart away, some linger, but with patience, the lake would grow calm and truth would shine through. This practice was not about escaping life, but about mastering it. To hold silence in such days is to polish the mirror of the mind. It is to see without distortion, to feel without confusion, and to know the next step without doubt. A still lake does not force clarity, it simply allows it, and so too does a still mind. August is often seen as a month of fire. Its days burn with intensity, pushing us toward action, passion, and expression. Yet, just as fire consumes, it also leaves behind ash. At the close of this fiery cycle, the final 3 days arrive, not with the roar of flames, but with the softness of breath. They are like the long exhale after holding something heavy within the chest, a release, a letting go of what no longer serves. Discipline in this moment becomes essential. Without it, the mind clings to old heat, replaying arguments, regrets, and unfulfilled desires. But with discipline, silence becomes the bridge between the past and what lies ahead. In Shaolin tradition, endings are treated with reverence, not carelessness. The way you close a cycle shapes the way you enter the next. A door slammed in haste carries noise into the future. A door closed with calm hands leaves no trace behind. In the monastery, monks were guided to treat these days as sacred pauses. No unnecessary words, no indulgence in wasted energy. Instead, they practiced quiet breathing, deliberate movements, and mindful attention. This was their way of closing the cycle with strength, like tying a knot so that nothing spills out. Through silence, they honored both the fire that had burned and the space that would soon open. To live without discipline is to scatter yourself in all directions, but to meet the end of a cycle with silence is to gather yourself whole. These days are not about loss, but about renewal. By holding silence, you are not denying the fire of August, you are completing it. You are giving it form, balance, and closure. And in that quiet exhale, the spirit becomes stronger for what is to come. At the close of a cycle, the chosen ones often feel a strange heaviness. It is not weakness, but sensitivity. The energy field is open, shifting, preparing for renewal. In these moments, every word spoken carries more weight than usual. A careless conversation, an argument born of impatience, even the urge to explain yourself to those who cannot understand. These are small leaks that slowly drain the reservoir of strength you have built. The ancients knew this well. They taught that speech is like opening the gates of a fortress. When the gates stand open too long, forces from outside can slip in and treasures from within can slip out. The end of a cycle is when the fortress must be guarded most carefully. This is why silence was honored not only as a discipline of the mind, but as protection of the spirit. Think of silence as invisible armor. It does not clatter, it does not boast, yet it shields you in ways no one can see. Each moment you choose not to respond to provocation, you strengthen this armor. Each time you resist the urge to justify yourself, your shield becomes brighter. By holding your tongue, you conserve the energy that would otherwise scatter, and you direct it inward where it can heal, refine, and prepare you for what comes next. In Shaolin practice, the warrior is not measured only by the strength of his strikes, but by the control of his energy. True mastery is knowing when not to act, when not to speak. To guard against energy leaks is to walk in wisdom, to choose strength over impulse. In silence, the chosen one carries power untouchable, preserved and waiting for the right moment to be revealed. True power has always lived in silence. The masters taught that strength revealed too soon becomes fragile, but strength guarded in quiet becomes unshakable. This is the way of nature itself. A seed does not rise to the surface shouting of its potential. It hides beneath the soil, gathering unseen forces, preparing in stillness. Only when the time is right does it break through, rooted deeply, steady against the wind. So it is with the chosen ones, especially at the closing of a cycle. The final days are not for display, not for proving who you are or what you carry. They are days for retreat, for holding energy inward like the seed beneath the ground. If you scatter your power in words, in explanations, In seeking recognition, you weaken the very foundation that is meant to sustain you in the days ahead. The Shaolin Way has always honored this principle. A master does not parade his strength. He walks with calm steps, speaks with few words, and lets his presence reveal more than any declaration could. His silence is not emptiness but fullness, for it contains the weight of discipline and the fire of unseen practice. At the end of August, when cycles close and new doors prepare to open, the Chosen One is asked to embody this hidden power, not to prove, not to display, but to hold, to gather the energy inward, allowing it to grow unseen, like roots stretching deep into the earth. In time, power held in silence becomes unmovable. Just as the seed must remain hidden before it can rise, the Chosen One must follow this law, conserving strength until the right season calls it forth. Silence has never been the absence of sound. It is the opening of another kind of hearing. When the outer world grows quiet, the inner ear begins to awaken. The Master spoke of this as deep listening, a way of tuning the heart to the signals of the universe. These signals are not loud. They do not shout for attention. They arrive like whispers carried on the wind, subtle impressions, gentle intuitions, sudden clarity that vanishes if the mind is restless. The final days of August are rich with such whispers. They are not random, they are guidance preparing you for the shift into September. Just as the moon pulls at the tides, unseen forces pull at the soul in these closing days. If you fill them with noise, endless conversations, distractions, or the urge to voice every thought, you drown out the signals meant for you. But if you embrace silence, the messages rise clearly, like stars revealed once clouds have passed. The Shaolin path treated silence as a form of listening practice. A monk would sit in stillness, not waiting for sound, but attuning himself to the subtle rhythm of life. In that quiet, he could sense the turn of the seasons, the shift in his own energy, and the direction of his next step. It was not magic, but mastery, the result of learning to trust silence as a teacher. For the Chosen Ones, these last 3 days are an invitation to listen more deeply than usual. It is a time to hold back words, to breathe slowly, and to notice the quiet guidance flowing in. In silence, the universe speaks, but only those who choose to be still can truly hear what it is saying. Within silence, a kind of inner alchemy begins to unfold. When words fall away, the simple rhythms of life step forward. The breath becomes more noticeable, steady like a drum guiding the body. The heartbeat, often hidden beneath layers of noise, rises into awareness as a reminder of the life force within. In this state, awareness sharpens. The senses no longer chase distractions, but turn inward, aligning body, mind, and spirit into one clear current. The ancients understood silence as more than restraint. They saw it as transformation. To speak is to release energy outward, scattering it across the air into conversations, into explanations, into places where it may never return. But silence is different. Silence gathers that same energy, distills it, and turns it inward. What was once dispersed becomes concentrated, like fire drawn into the core of a furnace. This is why those who practice silence appeared calm on the outside, yet carried unshakable strength within. Shaolin masters often compared this process to refining metal. Raw ore is filled with impurities, but when placed in fire and left undisturbed, it transforms into something pure and strong. The spirit is the same. In silence, old tensions rise, impurities of thought and emotion surface, and through patience they are burned away. What remains is clarity, light, steady, and resilient. The Chosen One who enters silence discovers this hidden alchemy. Breath grows deeper, posture becomes grounded, and the spirit feels washed clean. The energy that once rushed outward now circulates inward, feeding strength, sharpening focus, and igniting the quiet flame of mastery. This is the gift of silence, not emptiness, but transformation, a stillness that does not weaken but renews, purifying the spirit for the path ahead. At the close of any cycle there is a subtle shift in the air, a pull that asks for direction. The journey so far has left traces, decisions made, energy spent, lessons learned, and the spirit can feel unsteady, as if the compass has wavered in the storm of days gone by. It is in these moments that silence becomes essential. To speak, to act without pause, is to drift further from the true path. But to hold still, to quiet the mind, is to feel the needle of the inner compass realign. Ancient masters described this as tuning the spirit. Just as a sailor checks the stars before navigating the night, the chosen one checks inward, seeking alignment with purpose, mission, and higher calling. The noise of daily life, the endless chatter of the mind, can cloud judgment and lead even the strong astray. Silence, held deliberately, clears the horizon. It allows the wisdom accumulated over months and years to surface, showing where energy should flow and which paths to release. In Shaolin practice, cycles were marked not by calendars, but by awareness. The end of a cycle was a time for reflection, for retreat, for gathering what mattered most and discarding what no longer served. Silence offered the space to see clearly, to feel deeply, and to act with precision. Without it, even a chosen one may wander, pulled by fleeting impulses or scattered intentions. When the final days of a cycle are met with stillness, the spirit recalibrates. Decisions become grounded in clarity rather than emotion, actions arise from insight rather than habit, and the path forward is illuminated. The inner compass, once unsettled, finds its north again. In this quiet realignment, the chosen one does not merely survive the transition, they step into it with purpose, centered and ready for what comes next. Within the quiet, shadows rise. Not the shadows cast by the sun, but the hidden parts of the self, fears, doubts, regrets, and unspoken desires that have been tucked away in the corners of the mind. In ordinary days, these shadows are easily avoided, hidden behind noise, conversation, or distraction. But in the stillness of the final 3 days of a cycle, silence exposes them. It does not judge. It simply shows what has been carried in the unseen. The masters called this the walk inward. To face the shadow is not weakness, it is courage. It is the recognition that growth cannot occur without acknowledgement of what lingers in darkness. When the chosen one enters these days with quiet resolve, each thought, each hidden feeling is met like an old companion. Some will resist, some will demand attention, but all offer a lesson. By observing them without reacting, by holding still in the presence of discomfort, energy that was once scattered in avoidance is gathered, refined, and transformed. Shaolin teachings compare this process to refining gold. Impurities must surface before the metal becomes pure. So too, the spirit is purified by confronting what has been denied. The final days of August serve as a sacred crucible, a time to release the weight carried from the month before. In doing so, the mind and heart grow lighter and the spirit stronger. Those who embrace this silence discover renewal. Each shadow faced, each hidden thought witnessed becomes a source of insight rather than burden. Masters remind their disciples, the one who walks into silence walks out renewed. By confronting the inner shadow, the chosen one does not merely survive the end of a cycle, they emerge ready, unburdened, and prepared for the journey that lies ahead, stepping into September with clarity and strength. The closing days of a cycle are not ordinary. They are a test, a threshold where the choices of the present shape the energy of the days to come. Ignoring silence now is not harmless. Each word spoken without care, each argument entertained, each unnecessary explanation is a tiny fracture in the shield that protects the spirit. Energy meant for growth and renewal slips outward, leaving the chosen one vulnerable to distraction, doubt, and depletion. The world may not see it, but the imbalance is real, and it quietly shapes what follows. Ancient masters often spoke of this moment as a sacred opportunity. The final 3 days of August are like the pause before the tide turns, a time when careful attention can redirect forces that are otherwise invisible. Silence becomes a form of stewardship, a way to guard the treasure of one's inner strength. By holding still, by restraining the urge to act impulsively or speak carelessly, the chosen one preserves what is most precious: focus, clarity, and the energy that fuels mastery. Embracing silence in this time is not merely passive, it is active cultivation. It allows the mind to sharpen, the spirit to stabilize, and the heart to receive guidance that would otherwise be drowned out by noise. Energy is gathered and refined, like water collected into a vessel. Strength accumulates, clarity emerges, and vision for the coming month rises with purpose. The warning is simple but profound. These days are not to be taken lightly. To scatter energy is to weaken, but to honor silence is to empower. The chosen one who listens, waits and holds still enters the next cycle with grounded power. The protection that silence provides is invisible, yet unbreakable. By the end of these days, what was once scattered becomes concentrated, what was unclear becomes sharp, and the path forward becomes illuminated. Silence, in this sacred pause, transforms vulnerability into strength and uncertainty into direction. The last 3 days of August are a sacred pause, a time to gather strength rather than scatter it. Silence is not emptiness. It is the shield of the chosen, a quiet power that prepares the spirit for what lies ahead. By stepping back from noise, by holding still and listening deeply, you allow your energy to realign, your mind to clear, and your purpose to shine. These days are an invitation to practice inner mastery in its purest form. Let the world rush around you while you remain grounded. Watch your thoughts, breathe with awareness, and honor the quiet within. In doing so, you will carry clarity, resilience, and strength into the coming month. The storm of life may rage, but your spirit will rise unshaken, ready to meet it with wisdom and calm. Take this practice into your daily life, not just at the close of a cycle. Observe the power of silence, the depth of reflection, and the subtle guidance it offers. The chosen one does not rush, does not speak without reason. They conserve, they focus, and they grow. If this lesson resonates with you, and you wish to walk the path of inner mastery and ancient wisdom, join us here at Shaolin Soulfire. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and walk with us in calm strength, mindful presence, and the quiet power that shapes destiny.